What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, yesterday we did a video talking and grading the offensive side of the ball for the Detroit Lions, going over the roster and looking where the strengths and weaknesses are. And today we're going to be going over the defense. We're going to be going over everything from the defensive line all the way up to the safeties and just kind of giving them a grade, talking about each individual player for a little bit, and seeing where the strengths and weaknesses are for this Detroit Lions defense. Now, before we do get into the video, if you are new to the channel and are enjoying the content, consider liking the videos and subscribing to the channel, as you know, it takes 2 seconds out of your day to make mine, and I would be very, very appreciative to everybody that chooses to do so. With that being said, though, let's get into talking about this defense and see, where these strengths and weaknesses are and giving them each a letter grade. Now, looking at the defensive line first, I gave it a B. Now, I know a lot of Detroit Lions fans, as well as the Detroit Lions organization, were very disappointed in their defensive line last year, especially after it was being hyped up to be the greatest thing since the Steel Curtain. Now, obviously we underperformed last year, but I really think that the Detroit Lions brought in a lot of really good, solid pieces to help this defensive line improve from last season and kind of, maybe not live up to that hype from the 2018 offseason or 2019 offseason, but, at least get somewhere where they are a productive defensive line. Now, Trey Flowers is, obviously a phenomenal pass rusher. He came out really late in the season. In the 2019 season, he had 7 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, and 21 quarterback hits. He had surgery in the 2019 offseason, so really wasn't healthy for the beginning of the season. As soon as he got healthy and as soon as his shoulder healed up really well, he started playing as that dominant pass rusher we paid him to be. He's going to come in next season and be phenomenal for the Detroit Lions. He's not going to have any setbacks this offseason, hopefully, and he's going to come in, and I would not be surprised if Trey Flowers gets double-digit sacks this season because he got 7 last year without really any help on that defensive line outside of Devon Kennard. We move on to Romeo Okwara, the backup to Trey Flowers. Now, last season, Romeo Okwara took a huge dip in production as he only had 1.5 sacks, 1 tackles for loss, and 10 quarterback hits. However, his playing time was also reduced a lot. I believe it was like 100-something snaps less. It was over 30% of his snaps were taken away from him and given to Trey Flowers. So, obviously he didn't perform as well, but he also wasn't given the same opportunities to perform at that level as he did in the 2018 season. So that, I believe, is a big reason why his production dropped. But he is still a very, very talented pass rusher. We saw the flashes last year. We saw him put together a fantastic season in 2018 as he had over 7.5 sacks and was, really our most productive pass rusher of the 2018 season. We saw him have that phenomenal season, and we know he can get back to that form. But we just, I think part of it was he got less playing time, and, he's just behind some better guys now, so he's not going to be playing as much. But I still think he is really talented and has a lot, and gives the Detroit Lions really, really solid depth at that defensive end position. And then we move on to his brother, Julian Okwara, who is officially listed at that defensive end position by the Detroit Lions. Obviously he could play the jack role like Devon Kennard. He could play a defensive end if the Detroit Lions want him to. We got to wait and see how he plays on the field, but because he is listed by the Detroit Lions as a defensive end, I put him in here with the defensive line. Now, last year with the Fighting Irish, Julian Okwara had 7 tackles for loss, 5 quarterback sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. He did that while only playing in a small amount, as he did break his leg last season playing at Notre Dame. Now, Julian Okwara is a very talented and very athletic pass rusher. I think he's going to bring a lot to this defensive line. I think he's going to be, the surprise contributor. Everybody's kind of, looking at Julian Okwara and saying, okay, he could be good, but I really think that Julian Okwara is going to blow some people out of the water next year. And, I wouldn't be surprised if Julian Okwara is our most effective pass rusher last year, just as Devon Kennard was a year ago. Now, moving on to Da'Shawn Hand. This guy, he's not coming back. He's not a new player, but he is kind of coming back as a new pass rusher because the Detroit Lions did not really have Da'Shawn Hand accessible last season. He only played in 3 games for the Detroit Lions in 2019, and really, when he was playing in those games, wasn't really the Da'Shawn Hand we all saw in his rookie season. In Da'Shawn Hand's rookie season, he had 4 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hits, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. We saw how good he could be. He ranked the 15th best defensive tackle in the NFL by Pro Football Focus, so we know he can be good. We know he can be a dominant force on the defensive line. He just wasn't healthy last year, and when he did play in those 3 games, he really wasn't the same Da'Shawn Hand we saw from his rookie season. Now, Da'Shawn Hand is coming back hopefully healthy and ready to go get the quarterback. He's going to be hungry because he missed the 2019 season. He's going to be ready to go, and I really think that Da'Shawn Hand, we're going to see the reemergence of Da'Shawn Hand, and we are going to see him take over football games because when he is a member of this defensive line and when he is playing up to that great standard that we saw him play in 2018, 2019, the defensive line just is a whole different animal. Then we move on to Danny Shelton, the new free agent acquisition from the New England Patriots. Now, Danny Shelton last season had 2 tackles for loss, 6 quarterback hits, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble. But this guy, his production more comes from stopping the run. He's a very good run stopper. He commands double teams by the other team. You know, the other offensive line has to double team him, or he's going to get interior pressure. He's going to force the quarterback out of the pocket, or he's going to force the quarterback right into, you know, the edge rusher's pressure, right into the edge rusher sacks. And he doesn't rack up stacks for himself, but he really helps everybody else on the defensive line because he gets interior pressure, because he commands those double teams. He lets everybody else on the defensive line get their one-on-ones and win those one-on-ones. And when he is one-on-one, he gets that interior pressure, which, you know, forces the quarterback to make mistakes. So he's not going to show up big on the stat sheet, but he's going to show up big for the Detroit Lions, and he's going to make everybody on this defensive line improve next season. Now, we have all those guys that we talked about, but then we look at the depth, and we got some very, very solid depth, as we got guys like Nick Williams, who had 6 sacks this season. We have Kevin Strong and John Pennicini and Jayshon Cornell and Austin Bryant. All these guys are going to be situational pass rushers, situational defensive linemen for the Detroit Lions that I believe all of them could have a role to play on this team. You know, not all of them are going to be starters. Not all of, if any of those 4 or 5 guys are going to be starters for the Detroit Lions next season. But at some point, they are going to make plays. At some point, they are going to be on the field and be expected by the coaching staff and the fans to make plays for the Detroit Lions. And you know, I really think all of those guys, if we put them in a right situation, if we put them in on situational plays, they're going to make plays and they are going to contribute to this football team. Moving on to the linebacking core, I gave it a C+, and I do think this is the weakest part of the defense. However, I do also think we have a lot of really strong pieces. Now, obviously, first and foremost, we got to talk about Jamie Collins, the new acquisition from the New England Patriots. Now, Jamie Collins last season had 81 total tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 10 quarterback hits, 7 sacks, 3 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery, along with a touchdown or 2. And, you know, he was just a playmaker. He was making plays all over the field for the New England Patriots, who had the #1 defense last season. I really think that he's going to keep that form up in Detroit, as we're going to play him in a very, very similar situation. We're going to play him in a very similar role. And, you know, there is no reason his stats and his production should drop. And if we add a playmaker in the linebacking core, you know, it's really going to help the progression of Jahlani Tavai and Jarrad Davis because they have that veteran presence now. But it's also going to make an immediate impact because he is that playmaker that the Detroit Lions solely lacked last season in that linebacking core. Then we move on to Jahlani Tavai, who last year had 58 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 3 quarterback hits, 2 sacks, a forced fumble, and an interception. I mean, Jahlani Tavai, by all means, exceeded fans' expectations last year. We all thought we overdrafted him. We all thought we could have got him in the 5th round. You know, a lot of people thought that he was going to go in the 5th round or later, which very well could have happened. If we waited, we very well could have got Jahlani Tavai late in the draft, but I believe he did live up to that 2nd round pick. I mean, he was arguably our most effective linebacker last season. He got sacks, he got interceptions, he forced a couple fumbles, he got tackles, he didn't allow a ton of big plays, you know, he did not allow a lot of running backs to get past him. He was very, very solid that season, and I do think that he is going to be the next great Detroit Lions linebacker. I really do. I think that Jahlani Tavai has the tools, he has the size, the speed. I think he's willing to learn, and now he has that veteran presence in Jamie Collins, who's going to teach him everything he needs to know. I really think Jahlani Tavai is going to be that next great Detroit Lions linebacker. Then we move on to Jarrad Davis, who throughout his career so far with the Detroit Lions has been kind of underwhelming, but has also been very, very good at certain things. Now, Jarrad Davis last season had 63 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 5 quarterback hits, 2 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and 1 fumble recovery. He's a very good run and chase linebacker. He's a very good pass rushing linebacker. He just struggles in coverage, which is why he gets a lot of flack from Detroit Lions fans. It's unfortunate, but Jarrad Davis, you know, just like other players on this Detroit Lions roster, he struggles at certain things, and that, you know, just because he struggles at pass rush doesn't mean he's not a good linebacker. And I believe the addition of Jamie Collins and Jahlani Tavai in the past 2 years is going to allow Jarrad Davis to play in a more natural position. It's going to allow him to run and chase. It's going to allow him to rush the passer a little bit more, and it's going to allow him to not have to sit in coverage as often as he has in the past couple of years. I think the additions in the linebacking core is going to allow us to use Jarrad Davis correctly, and when we use Jarrad Davis correctly, the NFL's got to watch out because he is an athletic monster. Jarrad Davis is a good football player, and if he is used correctly in the Detroit Lions system, he's going to be a breakout player, and he's going to have the best season of his career in 2020. And then we move on to Christian Jones, who a lot of Lions fans, including myself, do not like. I mean, he's not that good. He doesn't make plays. He's not super fast, super big, super strong. You know, he isn't a great linebacker, and the Detroit Lions need to replace him. Hopefully they can replace him with Jarrad Davis. Hopefully they just move him outside of that Christian Jones position, and then, we could just cut Christian Jones and move on. I don't know why the Detroit Lions keep him. I don't know why they play him so much, because he's really not that good. We need to move on from Christian Jones, and hopefully the guy to replace him is Jarrad Davis on the outside. Those are the kind of the starting four that I expect. Those are kind of the big four in our linebacking core. But then we also got a lot of really, really solid depth, as we have Jason Kabidna, Elijah Lee, Anthony Pittman, Reggie Ragland, and Jalen Reeves-Maybin, all who are going to compete for playing time, all of who are going to, really try to get that playing time and get those starting reps, because, I believe all of those guys are fairly talented. I really like Jason Kabidna. I really like Jalen Reeves-Maybin. I like Reggie Ragland. I'm not super high on Anthony Pittman or Elijah Lee, but I think that they can come in and at least compete for time and compete for snaps. It's a very competitive linebacking core, but it's also very unproven. We haven't seen Anthony Pittman play a lot. We haven't seen Elijah Lee here. We haven't seen Jason Kabidna play a lot. We haven't seen Reggie Ragland here. Jalen Reeves-Maybin plays a little bit, but he's not really a starting linebacker. Jarrad Davis has struggled throughout his first couple seasons. We just haven't seen a lot out of this linebacking core so far. So that's why I have to give it a C+, because the potential and the talent, I believe, is there, but we haven't seen that talent come together and play cohesively and be a great linebacking unit in the NFL yet. So it does have to be lower, just because we haven't really seen it play, and even though it looks like it could be really talented, it isn't quite there. And that is kind of, what I see out of the cornerback room too. The cornerback room, I gave it a B, because, on paper, this cornerback group looks elite. We got Desmond Trufant, who had 4 interceptions and 7 passes defended last year. He's very, very good. We've seen him be good in the NFL for a long time, but we haven't seen him play for the Detroit Lions. We haven't seen him play in the Detroit Lions system. Jeffrey Okudah last year with the Ohio State Buckeyes had 3 interceptions, 9 passes defended, and a forced fumble. But again, we haven't seen him play in the NFL yet. And, sometimes rookie cornerbacks tend to struggle in their first season. We have seen Justin Coleman play in the Detroit Lions system, but he's a slot cornerback. Last season with the Detroit Lions, had 1 interception, 13 passes defended, 3 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. He's a fantastic slot cornerback, and he is really the only proven piece coming back to this secondary this season, or coming back to this cornerback room in the 2020 season. He's really the only returning piece that is going to be a starter if you consider the slot cornerback a starting position, which I do. So we received Justin Coleman. He's a dog in the slot. He's really, really good. And then we move on to Amani Oruwariye, who stepped up late last season, but again, we haven't seen him play a whole lot. We saw him play in 9 games. He only started 2. In those 2 games, he did have 2 interceptions and 3 passes defended. But again, he's young. We haven't seen him play in 16 games. So he's only started 2 games in his career. While the flashes and the little bit we saw last year were very, very good, he is still relatively unproven and relatively inexperienced in the NFL. And I do think that he will be very, very good next season, but we haven't seen him play in 16 games either. Then we move on to Darryl Roberts, who was really, really good for the Jets last season. He had 1 interception and 6 passes defended. He's really good depth. I mean, obviously, if we get a starting cornerback and we bring him in and he's our 5th cornerback, that shows you how talented our secondary is and how talented our secondary could be. But again, we haven't seen him play for the Detroit Lions. And then we got guys like Mike Ford and Tony McRae that are going to be special teams contributors, but, most likely, unless injuries pile up, are not really going to be playing in the secondary a whole lot. So, the talent is there, right? We've seen Trufant, we've seen Roberts, we've seen Amani play, we've seen Jeffrey Okudah dominate at the college level, we've seen Justin Coleman be a dog in the slot. But we haven't seen, there's going to be 3 new starters in the secondary. We're bringing in 3 new cornerbacks that, haven't played in the Detroit Lions system, and we're expecting them to step up and have big roles. 2 of those guys are expected to be our top 2 cornerbacks and play a majority of the plays in that secondary and in that cornerback spot. It's unproven. We haven't seen them play, which is why I can't give it a super high grade. As I said, on paper, it looks elite, it looks fantastic, but until we see them actually play on the field against real NFL competition and as a cohesive unit, I can't give it a higher grade than a B. And then we move on to the safety unit. And I know I just said I can't give them higher than a B because we haven't seen them play together for the cornerbacks, but I give the safeties a B+ because we've seen Tracy Walker play. We've seen Tracy Walker make plays in this system. We've seen him get interceptions and force fumbles and get a lot of tackles and get tackles for loss. We've seen Tracy Walker be a fantastic safety in this league, and we've seen him be a fantastic safety on the Detroit Lions, which is really more than we can say for our top 2 cornerbacks. Now, I really think that Duron Harmon is the most underrated move the Detroit Lions made this offseason. He was a trade. We traded a late round pick for Duron Harmon, who last season with the New England Patriots had 3 interceptions and 6 passes defended, with one of those interceptions and passes defended being in their playoff loss to the Tennessee Titans. He's a closer, and that is what the Detroit Lions could not do last year. They got leads, they held the opposing offense off for 3 quarters, but then that 4th quarter hit, and the Detroit Lions could not close out football games, and that is why they went out and got Duron Harmon, because that is what he is known for. I really think Duron Harmon is going to step in and be a huge contributing factor, and I think he's going to be great immediately. And I also think he's going to be able to teach some of these younger safeties how to play the game that much better. He's going to be the next Glover Quinn. He's going to be the next Quandre Diggs, that veteran safety that teaches the young guys. Even though he hasn't been here, he's going to be a great leader. He has a great football mind, and I really think he's going to be a huge addition to this secondary, and he's going to help close out football games for the Detroit Lions. And then we have, Will Harris, who last year kind of started playing a little bit better near the end of the season. I think he's going to be used correctly this season, just like the Jarrad Davis situation. He's more of a box safety. He's more of a run and hit safety. He's going to come up and hit you in the box. He's going to come up and stop the running back, get a couple sacks this season. He's not really a deep coverage safety, in my opinion, and he was used that way last year, which was incorrect. But because we got Duron Harmon, because we got Jayron Kearse, because we got a couple other safeties that can cover deep now, he's not going to have to do that as often, and we can put him in the correct situation where he is going to thrive in the NFL. I mentioned Jayron Kearse. He's an athletic monster. He's like 6'4", 225. The dude is insane. Is insanely athletic. He's not going to play for the first 3 games because he is suspended. But when he gets back, he's going to be a huge asset for the Detroit Lions. He's going to make it so the Detroit Lions can disguise coverages better. He's going to make it so that they can do more things without having to make substitutions, because Jayron Kearse, he has all the athleticism in the world, and he has made a lot of plays for the Minnesota Vikings in the past, and that acquisition is just, it was a phenomenal pick. We got him for cheap. He's not going to play the first 3 games, but when he is there, the defense is going to take it to the next level, and we're going to need that in week 4 against the New Orleans Saints. And then we have 2 other very, very talented undrafted rookies in Jalen Elliott and Bobby Price, who, Bobby Price, again, just like Jayron Kearse, is a big, fast, athletic safety. And then Jalen Elliott is a kind of like a Will Harris, where he's a box safety. He's a great leader. He's a captain at Notre Dame, or he was, and he's going to be very, very good for the Detroit Lions if he is used correct. So I gave that unit a B+, because we've seen a little bit more out of the safeties than we have out of the starting cornerbacks. So I gave it, a 1 grade higher with a B+ opposed to a B. What do you guys think about these grades, though? Do you agree with the grades? Do you disagree with the grades? Let me know that down in the comments down below. If you disagree, what grade would you give the certain position that I misgraded? Let me know that down in the comments below. Well, with that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. If there is more Lions news, I will try to get a video out by the end of the day. But if that does not happen, then I will see all of you in tomorrow's video. Hope you guys enjoyed the video and have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. I will see all of you at the latest tomorrow with more Detroit Lions content. Thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye, guys.